Okay, we need to talk, right? This is a rough day. Why can't we have nice things? Okay, so you all have probably heard by now the news that one Mr. DeAndre Hopkins has been suspended for violating the league's performance-enhancing drug policy. So there's obviously and understandably a lot of doom and gloom out there. A lot of folks really, frustrated, discouraged, coping with, grief and loss and everything that comes with that. And if you're, if you've been a member of the community, my channel community for a while, you know that I tend to have more of a kind of a positive approach, a little more optimistic. I try to look for, the bright side of things. I try to also be realistic, but I try to approach it from, okay, things can go wrong, things can go bad, but let's look at the scenarios under which things can work out, if that makes sense. And this is a tough situation. It comes at a really bad time. Fans are really discouraged by how everything ended last year, and there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. And this team is absolutely better with DeAndre Hopkins than they are without him. So there's no way you can say, we're better off without him. Absolutely right. He is one of the best receivers in the NFL. He is an elite talent. But is the sky falling? Is the ship sunk? A lot of people think it is, and it's absolutely within the realm of possibility that this is the difference between making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. But it is not a foregone conclusion. The season is not over. It's a 6-game suspension at the beginning of the season. If the team can manage to have a reasonable record during that time and they can make the playoffs, they'll have him when it matters. So the question is getting through there. So let me real quick say hey to some of the folks that are in here, so we can, and then we'll get into our group therapy session and give each other a hug and kind of maybe try to talk us off the ledge, right? So we got Hank Hill, jumped in early. He was eager to talk about this, and then he realized, it doesn't for 2 hours. He enjoyed the thumbnail, which I'm glad he enjoyed. The thumbnail is a lot of fun, right? The group therapy session, it'll be okay. So we got Hank in here. Class Nasty, always early with the side eyes. Appreciate you. So Wolf AZ, Dear Diary, I hear you. Obviously you all heard the Des Bryant, kind of rumors, or at least, well, I shouldn't say rumors. He tweeted that he'd love to play here. There's no indication that the Cardinals have interest. You never know, but nothing much came about it. But certainly, that would be interesting. We've got Easy No Steroids. Time to sign Julio Jones. I wouldn't hate that. The issue with Julio is his health, but if he can give us 6 games, I would take that, right? But yeah, why can't we have nice things? Calvin's here, channel member, great support of the channel. So frustrating. I don't think we've got enough weapons, or I do think we have enough weapons to get by, and who knows? Hollywood could shine. Still, it's a heck of a blow, and black eye to the Cardinals once again. I hear you. We got Moore's Legacy. What is going on? Thanks for being here. Nick, who is dealing with the distress and the grief of not having Ty Chandler drafted by the Cardinals, who he really wanted, and now this. So I feel for you, Nick. We got JL. Is this Hopkins contract year? No, I think he's got I think at least one more year. In fact, one of the things, and we can talk about this, is his cap hit is like 30 million next year. So there's some questions about, is this his last year with the Cardinals? I mean, that's other people have talked about that, right? Oh, we got Ella1. Sorry, I'm late. Happy to be here. Not happy about the news. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. I am Bear. Hello, everyone. How we hold? We're here to support each other, right? We got my guy. What is up, Mike? Good to see you, the AZ Sports fan. Check out his stuff. I'm sure most of you are subscribed, but if you aren't, check him out. He does good work covering the Cardinals. Everyone else, good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. Let's see who else. Pedro Alcalo told you I'd be here. I appreciate you being here, Pedro. You did tell me in Twitter. I think it was where you said that, so appreciate you. Yeah, and like, listen, if you play fantasy football, Marquise Brown value just went up, right? And we'll talk about that as well. We got J Station 86 makes the McBride pick look that much better. I agree, and here's an important thing to know. Like, the Cardinals had to know about this. I mean, they knew, from the beginning of the from the first positive test. I think, and reports are still coming out. I'm hearing that it was back in kind of like late last year. I don't know if that's accurate. Regardless, they had to know about this before the draft and probably going into free agency, based on the timing. So, now that we know about that, maybe they do more 2 tight end sets. We can talk about that. Michael Liddick reminds me of the Patrick Peterson situation a couple years ago. Yeah, a lot of people making that comparison, for sure. So, is this the beginning of his way out? I mean, I hope not, but you just never know, right? Yeah, Pedro, glad to be at this Cardinals support group. You and me both. We need this. We need to stick together in these tough times. We got underscore who's saying no, Des Bryant, please. Yeah, there are players I like. There are options I like better than Des Bryant, and we'll look at some of those options as we get into this conversation. Let's see. We've got B Red C Red going to be an interesting 6 weeks. In a way, we get to see how it will be without him. If we do good without him, won't be worried after the suspension is over. Now got to love Brown and McBride picks 100%. Pedro thinks this is completely different Patrick P. And I mean, listen, where people are inevitably going to draw comparisons, right? Because there was a suspension and everything, but they are 2 different people and 2 different situations. And, that just because, Patrick Peterson's situation played out a certain way doesn't mean this is going to. We got Google, Des Bryant's better than D. Yeah, okay, that's a troll comment. Either that or you just don't get it, right? No, he is not better. Lord Dane, I wish we could have Hopkins, but I believe in the offense. We will probably be focusing on the run in the first 6 games, as James Conner and our new running back will most likely be the focus of the offense. Could very well be. I still think they're going to do a lot of pass, so we'll see. Pedro Hop is here till 2025. Thanks for confirming that. Yeah, right. It's only 6 games, not the season, right? And it's the beginning of the season, so they just got to manage to keep a reasonable winner record. And remember, like, the NFC kind of took a step back this offseason, right? The AFC is the stronger conference, I think most people think. And there's 7 playoff spots. They just have to get through that 6 games, have it, and play well enough to keep themselves in a playoff position. And, knock on wood, Lord willing, if injuries aren't a problem, they still have as much of a chance as anyone, right? And Bears confirming it was November. So, yeah, he passed October and December drug test, but failed November somehow. And probably had something to do with, I mean, I know there's still so much information kind of coming out. It may have been something he took for his recovery. He claims he didn't know, and that he wouldn't intentionally. And I'm gonna reserve judgment. It is what it is. It's a 6-game suspension. I'm not going to judge him personally, but the situation is a situation. So yeah. Let's see. Want to make sure. Okay. Links. McBride is going to be a wonderful asset for the stretch, as he's both a good blocker and good pass catcher. He could really help with the run game and pass game. We'll hail to the 2-3 tight end sets. I mean, we may see more. I think we're going to see more 2 tight end sets. That's a distinct possibility, right? We've got Eduardo Bernudo from Brazil, I believe, out here. I was waiting for Monday live stream, but not with that nuke news. Yeah, for anyone who wasn't part of it, we had mock draft Mondays going for weeks and weeks leading up to the draft. It was a lot of time, really good time. Eduardo was part of that, and a lot of the other folks in here. And, we weren't going to be, I wasn't going to do a Monday live stream with the draft over, but this news came out, and, we're going to talk about it, do our group therapy session, help each other out a little bit. Yeah, Julio is better than Des Bryant. Yeah, but both health are concerns. Absolutely. We got Otis here. What is going on? Appreciate you being here. And, L1 saying Pat took PDs to keep up. D-Hawk took them to rehab, Yeah, I mean, and so the situations are different. You have to look at them individually. Bottom line is it's a 6-game suspension. That's really all that matters, right? And this is a good point. May 12th schedule comes out. Going to be exciting to see who we play the first 6 weeks. I mean, how that schedule shapes up is going to be a really big factor, right? I mean, are we playing Seattle and some of the lesser teams early? Or are we playing this tough part of our schedule? And that's going to matter, right? If the Cardinals knew, we should be honest, evaluate how they manage this. Do we still think getting Hollywood over, let's say, Watson Pierce is the right move? I think so, emphatically. I liked what, and you were, Simon, I think you came to a lot of the mock draft Mondays. I love Pierce, Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati, and Christian Watson, North Dakota State. But a rookie is not, I mean, some rookies come in, gangbusters, but they were going to be second, third round rookies, probably more second round. I am much more confident in Hollywood Brown stepping in, who is a veteran, has earned 1,000 yards in this league in a run-heavy offense in Baltimore, has a connection with Kyler from college. In my opinion, with this information, kind of in hand, that, knowing what's going with Hopkins, I actually think there's a strong argument to be made that Hollywood Brown was maybe the best move they could have made to kind of be ready immediately, right? There's even the best receiver in this draft class, and they weren't going to be able to trade up far enough to get him, but the best receiver in this draft class might have been good, but still is going to need some time to acclimate and get in the system and get used to and build a rapport. Hollywood Brown has a rapport with Kyler. Like, I don't know that there's another receiver out there other than CD Lamb, who he also played with, right? Who's going to be able to come in here and immediately already have that rapport. I think it makes that move look that much better, in my opinion. So I was kind of, okay on the trade. I was maybe, I was pretty kind of in the middle on it, but knowing what we know, I think it's, yeah. So I've got to hope for at least 3-3. Jay Station thinks we go 3-3 in the first 6. We'll be fine. Yeah. Again, depends on who we're playing then, right? At least we can see how Kyle and Kingsbury will adapt to know DeAndre Hopkins since last season. We'll see if the main components are team or if it's mainly Hop. So yeah. Let's see. I want to make sure we at least get everyone in here once. Should we go out and sign Landry if he's available? So that's that's a name I was interested in. I think actually he'd be an interesting fit to bring in, Jarvis Landry. I do think they're probably going to get someone, right? I mean, I think they'll sign a veteran, but we'll see. Today after 4 p.m. Eastern time was when kind of free agency picks up again, because if you've been following it, there's the kind of, the compensatory system really impacts that. And, now that at 4:00 today is when you can sign players and it doesn't impact compensatory picks again. So we'll see if they'll take someone, right? Let's see. The Cardinals need to find a way to stop rolling on D-Hop and find a way to utilize every player and their strengths. Connor did great last year, and Rondale Moore, sky limit. I mean, yeah, and I will say the last year, to their credit, like if you follow this offense, and I did a video about this last season, the season before, DeAndre Hopkins had this huge, target share. Like, it was just overwhelming, and you'd expect that. Last year, before Hopkins got injured, they were still spreading out the ball more. And that's part of why I think they were effective, that they were getting other receivers involved and you couldn't hone in on just one guy. And, Kirk was still an important part. I mean, Hopkins was still an important part of that. But they were doing that even when he was healthy. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, what happens with that, right? Let's see. Want to make sure I get every comment from at least one. I try to get at least one comment from everyone who's in here. Mr. Mono, I agree. Kyle's familiar with Hollywood. They don't have to build chemistry when they already have it. So yeah, absolutely. Right. Baker's, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Baker's going to probably, I still think he could end up in Carolina, or I don't know, but I don't think, or maybe even Seattle, but I just don't think that's going to happen, but who knows. Right. Like others have said, start of the season really is going to show what the team and coaching staff is made of. Still plenty of talent to score as long as the scheming and discipline are there. Yep. I want to say hey to Aaron Van Maren. Thank you for the super chat. Aaron is a really good dude. Make sure you check out his he's got Aaron probably should get if you can put your Twitter account or handle in the comments. But Aaron is usually with me on Thursday nights TCR Live, so make sure you follow his stuff on Raising Zona. So he's a really good dude, and I really appreciate the $1.45 super chat. I don't know if that's random, but I appreciate random numbers. And of course, I have to always say thank you. Payo time. Good buddy of mine, LA Rams YouTuber. How's it going? Therapy in session. Yeah, I mean, I know you and I both kind of needed a therapy session about not getting Matt Ariza. But yeah, I think we're doing okay, right? Aaron Van Buren hates his off season. Oh, and Aaron's got his. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. He does, and he writes, for Raising Zona. So good stuff that he does. So yeah. Let's see. Jordan P saying on the bright side, we have Hollywood and McBride to make up for some of the loss of Hopkins. Also, to be honest, now we get to see how much of an offense Cliff actually is. So we're going to get to see how these guys do. Hopefully, it's not Rondale Moore breakout season, right? Let's see. I want to get a couple of Rashad. What's going on, Rashad? Rashad hung out with me during the first round of the draft on a live stream. Appreciate Rashad. Really good dude. Knows his stuff. I think the hope is they sign a vet like Landry Julio, but ideally it'll be someone like Tajay Sharp who can fill the void with some depth. Yeah, I could see that, right? Maybe they go for more of a depth so that the existing guys can start, right? Let's see. Utilizing Hopkins worked less, but then it didn't. I mean, I think it worked really well until he got injured. When the threat of him was there, it worked really well. When the threat of him was gone, then it kind of stopped working, I think, right? To some shady, can we brainstorm ideas how to break the curse this team is under? That's a good question. Does anyone have any training in the dark arts or hex breaking or anything? Because I don't. That's not my area. But if you do and you've got ideas about, is there something we can do to break that curse? I'm open to that. We got Nutsack who says okay, well, hello. Let's see. Will Fuller, that'd be an interesting name. He can't be asking too much. In the season prior to last, he proved that he can run more than deep routes and function more like a wide receiver. 1 of the 2. Okay. Here we go. Finish. I'm excited to see what the young guys can do. Now is the perfect time for this mishap. They have whole off season to get. Yeah, 100%. Right. Let's see. Both D-Hop and PP after the 8th season has slump year. 9th season both get in trouble for. But here's the thing I will say. Patrick Peterson's game was more reliant on speed. And here's the thing with quarterbacks who are about speed, when they lose a step, it's a big deal for them. Like DeAndre Hopkins was never a burner. He was always catch radius, 50-50 balls. I mean, aging will matter, but I still think it's very different. So we'll see, right? Cardinals officially announced their undrafted free agents, including 4 wide receivers. So we'll see if any of them, make the roster, right? And I will tell you, I've got a list, and I'll show it in a minute, of the from Spot Track of the existing or the current free agent wide receivers out there. And we'll look at that and look at those names. Another interesting idea is run a 12-man formation, so the 2 tight ends, right? In the year. So let's see, run 12-man formation early in the year without Nuke. When teams start to adjust their offense, we get Nuke back and run more varied offense in the second. That's a possibility, absolutely. Let's see, Deontay Singleton. We will know more. Going to get more snaps so perfect to develop his route sheet 100%. Do I think Hopkins will be out after the season? So someone was saying in the Discord, and that's a plug. Make sure you there's a link to the Discord below. If you aren't part of the Discord, check it out. There's a good group of folks who are always in there kind of talking about Cardinal stuff. Do we there? I think he has a no trade clause, is what someone was saying in the Discord. So he would have to approve a trade. And it's possible though. His cap hit is going to be big, but I don't know. I just, I think they're going to have to. I can't say with complete honesty that I feel confident that they won't move on from him, but I don't know that they will. But it's not out of the realm of possibility with his cap hit, and I don't know. I hope they don't, right? And JL, yeah, I think this is kind of part like expanding on kind of what I was saying. Their corners receivers are two different games. One requires more speed, and Hop's case, strength and power. Yeah, jump balls. Yeah, for sure. Des Bryant's asking, "Are y'all going to sign me, man?" I don't think so. But stay and play, game shape just in case, right? Let's see. I'll tell you, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring something up. I'm going to bring up, I put together a couple things to prep for this. It was, kind of short notice, but first thing I want to do is I'm going to put up a list. I just kind of copy and paste this from Spot Track, but the free agent wide receivers that they currently list. And let's talk about maybe some of these names, right? And none of these are DeAndre Hopkins, right? None of them are going to be as good as DeAndre Hopkins, but these are some names. Hopefully you can see it. I know it might be a little small, of some receivers that are potentially, or that are listed, at least at the time I did this, as free agents, right? You got Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry. Actually, let me see if I can do. No, okay, never mind. Okay, yeah, sorry. Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, Will Fuller, T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Keelan Cole, Alan Hearns, Albert Wilson, Deshaun Jackson, Danny Amendola, Odell Beckham Jr., Marquise Goodwin, Adam Humphries, Mohamed Sanu, Dede Westbrook, Tavon Austin, Chester Rogers, Tajay Sharp, Alex Erickson, Chris Moore, Chad Beebe, Dante Pettis, Christian Blake, Marcus Kemp, John Ursua, Deontay Spencer, Cameron Batson, Wawan Jennings, Quartre Davis. Obviously, at the end of the list, there's folks that aren't, you never heard of. That we're better off kind of hanging on to the guys we got. But I don't. Tell me who if the Cardinals could sign someone from this list, whether it's someone who's going to actually get some playing time as a starter, or even just someone as depth, and we start our existing guys. Like, what names stand out to you? For me, Jarvis Landry. I just think of it. He's a vet, could step in. He's not as big he's not as tall as Hopkins, but to me, I see Jarvis Landry as sort of a veteran possession receiver who can move the chains. He's going to be a guy who can kind of get you some first downs and just fit in there. So I'm seeing that Dede Westbrook would be a great, right? Let's see. Goal Line Audible saying the Spot Track website says there's a potential Hopkins contract after the season. It's actually true. It says that it's 18 million cap hit out of 57 million contract. Apparently, I'd have to look at it closer. I think when they say those outs, it's usually that there's a point where the dead cap money isn't as it kind of takes a drop off. So I know they restructured his stuff, this off season. So I'd have to look at that. There's going to be dead cap no matter what you do, right? But yeah, that's be interesting to look at. So we got Dede Westbrook. We've got Landry or Dede Westbrook. I think that's an interesting name. I might need to look at the USFL, right? Jarvis Landry is trying to get that Christian Kirk money, though, but he's not going to get it. He's trying to get paid. He might get more, right? But but I don't think he's going to get that. Bring Larry out of retirement, right? I mean, I have a feeling Larry's not doing that. I don't think he's coming back, but I know fans would love that, right? Okay. So if Landry wants the money, grab Dede for a year. Okay. Beasley and Kirk's role in Hollywood and Hops spotter center. That's an interesting thought, right? So that could be a possibility. We got Robert Moore checking what is going on. Robert, great dude who's a active part of the Discord and really great supporter of the channel. Appreciate you being here. I know you said you would be here, and glad you are. Yeah, I mean, I think Will Fuller is interesting. Health is a concern, but they only need 6 games out of him, right? For me, it's Jarvis Landry. Julio Jones, I wouldn't hate if, again, the health is the question. There's a lot of possible names on here. None of them are going to be Hopkins, obviously, but those are some possibilities, right? So, I think, let's see, Dede is a faster Christian Kirk. I think Julio fits best and would be the cheapest potentially, right? I mean, I love Julio Jones as a player. As long as it's always the question of the health, but I think he's so talented. I think he's still got something, so I wouldn't hate that, right? You think Landry is going back to Cleveland? Could be. Okay, Dialo's here. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Maybe. Let's see. Maybe this will mean that Hopkins healthy on the stretch. Here's hoping, right? I know Des Bryant's come up a possible times, right? You're MG in the Discord. Okay, awesome. Good to know that. That's helpful to know. Yeah. So there's a lot of possibilities, right? Simon likes T.Y. Hilton, should be cheap, has experience playing outside, would probably be willing to play for only a couple of games. Okay. Knowing who we face. Yeah. And we talked about this earlier. You're absolutely right. Knowing that schedule is going to make a big difference, right? 100%. If we took Julio, then he can just share with right with AJ New comes back. Listen, I wouldn't hate that at all. I mean, Julio is so good, and if you can get some healthy games out of him and then platoon him over there, that would be pretty great. Let's see. We've got Green, but do we need another taller wide receiver that can jump up and get it? I mean, ideally that's what they want on the outside, right? So right now, what we got there for those outside big receivers is going to be Green and Wesley. But I think they're going to mix it up a little bit. You know, I think that they talked about when they traded for Hollywood Brown that they're going to, that they're going to have him go outside some. I think they're going to mix up. I mean, when Christian Kirk was here, he did take some routes on the outside. I mean, they like the bigger receivers outside, but I think we're going to see them use the tight ends more, with Trey McBride too. So I think they're going to be fine. In fact, what I want to do, there's another thing I want to do here. Let me real quick say hey to some of the folks that just jumped in. Bub, we got Green. Oh, I think you already asked. Yeah, I already brought that up. Yes. So there we go. Okay. So this is interesting. I know a couple of people mentioned Eddie Isabella. I know Isabella's physical therapist. She said he's more focused on the season ever. I'm the only one that's rooting for the guy. I've seen him working out. He looks bulkier, more focused. Listen, I've been rooting for him. I feel bad for him. I mean, it hasn't worked out for whatever reason. I feel like the fan base has kind of gone after him. I don't think he deserves that, and I hope it works out. I hope he's successful. It'd be nice if if it works out. I'd like to see him have a good career, whether it's here or anywhere else, right? But I'll tell you, let's look at, there's something I want to bring up. Hopefully this isn't too hard to see on the screen. I actually, in preparing for this, I was thinking about this question. Without Hopkins, where does our wide receiver group rank, right? The current pass catchers, right? Hollywood Brown, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz. Because in my mind, that's not like amongst the worst receiving cores in the league, even without Hopkins. It's actually it's not the best, but it's not as doom and gloom as people think. So I went through PFF and just kind of went through where they listed the rosters and and I identified what I think are the top 4 pass catchers for every team. And I'm going to share this right here. Okay, I'm going to add this to the screen. Hopefully you can see it. I know it's a little hard to read. I did this on Excel spreadsheet, but I went through and I put together all the teams. I went through and listed their top 4 pass catchers. And then I put them into tiers because I didn't have time to really get granular down and rank them. But and this is subjective, my opinion. You might disagree with me, right? But what I did, so I've got this first tier, and obviously Cincinnati is stacked, right? And the Rams, and when you look at these are the teams that I think are stacked. Tier 2 are the teams that maybe have 1 or 2 really good receivers, but maybe the depth isn't as good, but are still really good. Again, this is just my subjective opinion. And then 3, I put the Cardinals. I had the Cardinals without DeAndre Hopkins somewhere between tier 2 and 3. I kind of feel like they're at the top of tier 3. Then we had tier 4 that maybe has 1 good receiver and then some unproven guys. And then poor Chicago, they were the only team in tier 5. But this is my subjective take, right? Okay, so and then I also, as I got into it, I put the quarterbacks in because, okay, you look at like when you're trying to say, okay, how does Arizona compare to these other teams? I think also part of that is the quarterback throwing the ball. Like I think you could argue Carolina with Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey being one of the best pass catchers, DJ Moore is a pretty competitive is probably somewhere in the same range as Arizona is, with our current receivers without Hopkins, but with Sam Darnold throwing the ball, to them, that impacts that, right? Cleveland has a better quarterback, assuming, Watson hasn't lost a step. Then Carolina, right? The Chicago tier, right? Yeah. Womp womp. Yeah. So anyway, listen, depending on where you rank them in this tier, and again, this is subjective. If you disagree with me on the tiers, that's okay. But I think this is really kind of roughly, roughly where I put them. And I think Arizona is up at the top of this tier 3, along with probably Cleveland. I think Detroit has nice pass catchers. The quarterback, that's the question. They're actually pretty deep. Equanimeous St. Brown had a good season. They got, the rookie Williams, CJ Chark. There's some nice pass catchers here, but in my opinion, I think, Seattle has the receivers, but not the quarterback, and their tight end, no offense, really good, but beyond that, it's not much depth. But in my opinion, the Arizona Cardinals receivers without DeAndre Hopkins are ranked somewhere between 15 and 20 in the NFL. They are, without Hopkins, still in the middle of the pack. And when you look at a lot of those teams in that range, I think they have better quarterbacks than a lot of those teams. So this isn't it. I'm not saying that. Listen, I'm not saying that it isn't a problem, but Murray throwing to Hollywood Brown, who has a rapport with Zach Ertz, we all know how good he is. AJ Green, I know he had his moments, but still, I think he's still solid as a veteran. Rondale Moore, especially if he takes a step forward, and then Trey McBride he doesn't make the top 4 here, right? But he could really surprise people, could be a part of this, right? So did Pittsburgh, that's a good call. So Pittsburgh Pickens, so I would put him here, well, let's say we put him here, right? It's hard to know with rookies, it's hard to know how they're going to do, right? Yeah, good call. But even with that, I think you all see my point here, right? That this receiving core is not the worst in the league all of a sudden without Hopkins. It's not, I think with Hopkins, they're somewhere on the border of 1 or 2, right? But let's see. I don't think we should be ranked 3 even without D-Hop. Last season, we ranked number 1 offense and per game. Should be balanced. And listen, for me, and I'm trying to kind of avoid being overly optimistic, even though I guess that's my brand, is optimistic. And that's a fair point. To me, they're a borderline 2-3 with this receiver set. I could see them being at the bottom of tier 2 and the top of tier 3. And tiers are a little arbitrary in some ways. So, so I think they're somewhere, like I said, in this 15, somewhere maybe in this range of 15 to 20, maybe as high as 13 or 14, depending on, how some of the guys, develop, right? So, wherever you think they are, they're probably without Hopkins still in that middle third-ish, right? And so anyway, that's kind of, I think you all get where I'm going with this, right? It's not ideal to have no Hopkins, right? Absolutely not ideal. But it's also not as dire as people are making it out to be, right? Let's see. Do you think Robbie Anderson wants Matt Corral? I don't know. That's a good question. He might. It's hard to tell, right? Let's see. You're responding assignment. Let's see. We saw that last year when Murray found success spreading the ball around rather than just looking for a nuke. Season before, there's a case that given prep, we could take some teams by surprise. I think that's absolutely possible, right? Nuke though, and Mr. Mono has a point though. Nuke is part of the reason that worked, right? The threat of him. But Hollywood Brown is fast and is going to take the top off and threaten things that way. So, that's going to, Hollywood and Murray connection is going to be Joey and Chase. The chemistry is that important. I mean, that I think that can't be, underestimated. I know people are talking about, but I think that could be really huge for them. right? So, and Drew's, and I know we talked about this earlier, but yeah, it's better than missing the last 6 games, right? I would rather have them miss the first 6 games, right? So listen, could that suspension be the thing that keeps some Cardinals from making the playoffs? Yeah, it could be. But is it a foregone conclusion that they're not going to make the playoffs because of this? No. Is their receiving core like trash because they don't have him? No, it's a solid receiving core that I would still take over some of these. And if they run 2 tight end sets and kind of change things up, right? That mixes things up. Could we trade for Brandin Cooks? I mean, theoretically, you can. I don't think that's happening. I don't think there's any big trades coming at this point. Listen, watch them make one to prove me wrong. I just don't think that's happening at this point. We'll see, though, right? I think what's going to happen is probably, because I think what's going to happen is maybe they sign a veteran free agent for some depth, and we run with who we've got. But Hollywood Brown, Zach Ertz, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, I like that pass catching group. And Kyler's going to make things happen with his legs and with his arm. It's not all doom and gloom. So that's my case for not overreacting to this, not panicking. But so what do you think? I mean, how are you? I know we've talked about this a little bit, but how are you all feeling about this? Let's see. Let me get a couple of comments. Personally, I don't believe that PD use during rehab from injury, especially season injury that requires surgery, should be penalized. Anyone else, especially early offseason? Listen, there is a vigorous debate that can and should be had around that. It's really hard. It depends, I guess, what they're using and so on and so forth. But I mean, I think you make a point that like if he's not on the field, right? If it's rehab stuff, maybe. And again, I'm not a physician, so I don't know how all that works, but we'll see. Mayweather says he'll pay for AB's contract if he screws up. I think AB could last 6 weeks, maybe. Yeah, maybe. Right. We'll see. With prep time, they can get a strategy together for 6 games. I don't think they need a high-profile receiver for 6 games. I would agree with you generally, right? Agreed. I don't think we need anything drastic. It's only 6 games. So we still have a good group. Absolutely. Positive outlook with Hop suspension. Wide receiver core will strengthen, especially with Moore getting playing time. And after week 6, we'll be better off for our weakness the second half of the season. I mean, there's something to be said for getting some touches for those receivers like Rondale Moore. We're still better with Hopkins, but if we can survive that, sustain a reasonable record through that, right, and then get Hopkins back, it's not doom and gloom, right? And I know the way the season ended, like, just really left such a bad taste in all of our mouths. But people forget how good this team was in that first 7 or 8 games, like dominant good, right? Like just really, really good offense. And like they don't need to be that. Even if they take a step back, there's still enough talent to be a team that wins 4 out of 6 games. Right. And they can be a step back from where they were last year and still win 4 out of those 6 games. And that's enough. That's enough to keep you going for sure. Right. So let's see. I think it might stop us from getting the playoffs. Maybe it could. But remember, that I said this earlier, the NFC is not as strong as it was in the past. It's, it's kind of it's taking a little bit of drop off. So I don't know, Lance just dropped in. Thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate you. Can't believe the Hop news. I'm sure you've touched on that, but damn, yeah, that's why we're here. We're here to support each other, our group therapy session, to talk each other off the ledge, to say it'll be okay. It's not your fault. Yeah, glad we got Hollywood. Yep, absolutely. AJ and more back. Yeah, right. Let's see. I'm feeling bad about Bat Math and kind about Hollywood trade, considering Hollywood is one of my favorite players. Listen, I understand that, people are very critical of Keim and his drafting, in recent decade. I mean, he's struggled and, there's merit to those criticisms. And sometimes people get frustrated with me because I am kind of I'm going to reserve judgment on that stuff, because if there's one thing I've learned, I always talk about how old I am and how much I've seen it. I'm not that old, but I'm in my upper 40s. not only in football, but in real life and in the workplace. One of the things I've learned is it's easy to stand back and take pot shots and criticize, but unless you're in the room where the decision's made and you know what's going on, sometimes there's things going on we don't know about, and then when the decision happens and we criticize it. I've seen it in the workplace with my own bosses, right? People I've worked for where I questioned their decisions and thought they were doing something wrong. And then once I learned all the details of what's going on that I didn't know about, I was like, oh, you had a tough decision. I understand when you made it. And I think that's maybe why I'm not as quick to jump all over Steve Keim. And I guess, listen, some of his drafting has been off, and I think I have some criticisms of him. But I think this whole, people who were really critical of the Hollywood Brown trade, now we see what was going on. He knew about Nuke being suspended. We didn't know it, but he knew it. And now in retrospect, okay, trading for a guy that Kyler has a rapport with who can step in instead of drafting a rookie who's going to need time to get up to speed. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So that's why I'm always I'm going to reserve judgment, and because sometimes there's things we just don't know about, right? Let's see. Let's get a couple of the comments. Read the bird alert. Next big thing. This is a follow up from this. We went from wow, this air raid is the next Cliff for coach of the year to Murray is too short and Cliff sucks after we started losing. Okay, good. You assume they knew this. Why is that? This news just now coming out. Okay, good question, Lance. The reports are coming out that it was back in November, and that the tests happened. So the team probably, I'm all but certain, knew this. And in fact, I think Hopkins had kind of appealed and then retracted his appeal or pulled it back, and then it's final. And these things happen over time, and the teams know about that. As far as that's my understanding. You tell me if you know something different. So based on the timing, I think it seems pretty safe to assume they knew that this was coming down the pipeline. And again, if you've got inside information or some other information, let me know. But yeah. Just listening to the insanity. Everyone, please be sure to click the like button. At least we didn't draft another linebacker in the first round, right? Yeah, 100%. It's unfortunate, and I hope it doesn't tarnish Hopkins' career. I'm with you there. I hope it doesn't as well. Concerning we took McBride and have Hollywood now, I think we'll be fine. It's early enough. We can game plan around it. Run 2 tight end sets, clog the middle with more Brown outside for speed. I think that makes a lot of sense. Honestly, why not just give Moore a change? During the draft process last year, he came across as super intelligent at regards to route design. Okay. Or a chance in thinking. He's an All-American, has ridiculous short area quickness. I know this kid can beat coverage. Okay. I like to see a lot more Rondale Moore for sure, right? Okay, and then Drew's mentioned kind of responding or following up. It's responding from a failed test in November, so the Cardinals knew. So 6 weeks for a first time offender. Well, I don't know all the intricacies of the rules, but I've read pieces of it before, and usually there's more than just one. I think there's other things I think maybe math. I don't know. I don't want to speculate too much. I don't know the rules well enough, but there might be other details. So I'm kind of, I think we'll learn more about it as time goes on. Right. So we got 90 days to the preseason. Hopefully, from our time last season, Cliff can actually learn from his mistakes and actually get creative with no elite wide receiver. I'm fine that I get mad that I can't make you mad at Keim and his drafting. Okay. Well, I'm not going to overreact to it. I mean, I might be critical at points, but yeah. Let's see. I hate the green slander dude. Made so many key plays for us last season. I think this season he improved dramatically. I'm generally with you. I mean, there were like 2, maybe 3 plays that were bad. One of them was really bad at the worst time possible, right? The Green Bay one. But I watched all season and I saw all those 50-50 balls that he went up and got something, and he made some plays for us. And second year in the system, I mean, he's not terribly expensive, so I like it. I think Green bringing him back was a good move, and I'm with you that I'm not on the Green hate bandwagon. We've got a super chat from Dio. Thank you so much. Thanks for helping us out tonight. Keep grinding, and I know this channel will keep blowing up, especially when we win a Super Bowl. Go Cardinals! Crossing our fingers. Thank you, MG/Dilo. I appreciate that sincerely. I appreciate the support, and of course, when we get a super chat, we must. So I appreciate the support. Thank you. It means a lot. I appreciate everyone being here, hanging out with us too. Let's see. The team had to know prior for an NFL investigation to start and conclude for its official suspension to be announced. Okay, that makes sense, right? Let's see. I feel like if this was to break, then the pressure would have been on Keim to go up in the draft. Not even Hollywood would have made people happy. They would have wanted more wide receivers had they known this. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's true. Like, okay, I see what you're saying. So if the news had broken, fans might have been really pushing for, trade up, get a wide receiver, and Hollywood wouldn't have made them happy. So, and listen, I mean, the team, by not, obviously they're not going to make this public, and they want to respect Hopkins' privacy until the news is public, and they didn't throw him under the bus, and they didn't even allude to, well, we made this trade because there's other things going. They made the trade focus on that they loved the player, and I respect that. But yeah, like I said, I think fans might have pushed for something else, but again, I think that trade was the best way to kind of deal with this, in my opinion. Let's see. Has D-Hop made any statement about this? I'd love to hear him take responsibility. I haven't seen any statements from him directly. I did see something someone posted about how he's says he's adamant that he's never intentionally taken anything, but those obviously that's always a response. So we'll see. I'm not gonna get too wrapped up in all of that. It is what it is. It's a 6-game suspension, but yeah. Trade Andy Isabella for DK Metcalf. Who says no? We all know the answer to that one. Us, right? Yeah, no, Seattle says no, right? Yeah, Seattle, unfortunately. Do you think we will integrate run heavy 2 tight end formations like the team, like the Rams, and change up the air raid, or will Cliff stay close to home with his playbook? I don't think we're going to necessarily become a run heavy 2 tight end formation team. I think he's still going to use the same kind of blocking schemes and the same kind of passes he used, but he might use tight ends a little more in the, than he has 2 tight end sets in his playbook. He might use those a little more, but I don't think they're going to shift to becoming like a run heavy 2 tight end. Like, he has his run blocking schemes that he uses, and I think he's just going to use those. He's going to maybe use more the 2 tight end versions of that more, but they're not going to become they're not going to become a power run 2 tight end team, in my opinion, at least. But I'm not a schematic whiz or anything, so I don't know. But that's kind of my opinion, right? Go Cardinals, go Suns. Ain't nothing fade my day. D-Hop was just rehabbing, trying to come back early. Here's hoping, right? How are the Cards better equipped to stop Aaron Donald and avoid disaster that was that playoff game? I think they're a little better equipped. Aaron, no one is fully equipped to stop Aaron Donald, right? He's one of one. I do think that they've, last year, I think the big, health was a problem, obviously, right? When they missed Rodney Hudson for those games, that was tough. Right guard was a problem spot for them. Josh Jones was the starting right guard for much of the season, and he's just much more natural at tackle. He was a tackle out of Houston in college. He started guard because they didn't have a better option or they wanted to get him on the field. But they went out and signed Will Hernandez, and Will Hernandez, no, I get it, is not like a Pro Bowler. I did a video on his, he was drafted in the top of the 2nd round, had a really good rookie season, and then regressed. He's here now with his college coach. He's strong as heck. So Will Hernandez is going to be really capable of handling the bull rush. might not be as laterally quick. But I do think Will Hernandez is probably going to be better at guard than Josh Jones was at guard. I think Josh Jones still has potential as a tackle. That's may not be, I would also say the rookie guards, they're rookies. I get that, but we drafted some really some guards in the day 3 that I think have a lot of potential as backups. They're not going to start unless one of them really, really shines, but having some legitimate depth, so, no one's going to completely stop Aaron Donald. So, but I do think they're a little better equipped with Will Hernandez. Robert Moore, can we all do a group hug for this Arizona Cardinals Anonymous? So absolutely, like Arizona Cardinals Anonymous group hug, right? Okay, right there. Bring it in, right? Yeah, so Lewis thinks we're getting cooked without D-Hop, in your opinion. Okay. I mean, tough schedule depends on the first 6 games. Hopefully we don't play any AFC West teams those 6 games. I don't think we're getting cooked. I don't. That's it's my opinion. We'll see, right? Maybe when things fell apart last season, it wasn't just because we lost Hopkins. Like Hopkins missed some games and we were still, I mean, that impacted things, but like the thing that really, it was the combination of being the offense missing him, but also I think Robert Alford was one of the quietly the biggest losses. I mean, we started losing games before that. I get that. But like when we lost him for the end of the season, our cornerback room really fell apart. So it wasn't just Hopkins that collapsed. There were other things. It was Rodney Hudson missing games, and then Max Garcia at center. It was Alford being out. So, I do think that there are a lot of fans that are just remembering that slide, the collapse, and are attributing it wholly to the fact that Hopkins was gone, injured. But J.J. Watt was out. Rodney Hudson missed games, right? Rondale Moore was injured. He was banged up, right? I think Chase Edmonds, missed some games, if I'm not mistaken. Robert Alford, Marco Wilson was banged up. There were a lot of injuries. And, it wasn't just Hopkins that led to that collapse. It contributed, right? So, we'll see, right? Let's see. The young offensive line guys we drafted this year look better to me from the film I've watched. At least one, if not both, start. I don't know if they'll start this year. They might. I mean, I think Will Hernandez and Justin Pugh are going to start this year. But I'll tell you, and if anyone, we had anyone who was in the Discord, we were really active during the draft knows I was really big on Marquise Hayes, and when they drafted him, I was really excited. He was supposed to be like a 3rd, 4th rounder. The other guy that they drafted, the other guard they drafted, was also kind of in that range, and they got them later. And I think widely people, like not just Cardinals fans, people who draft analysts, a lot of people, folks at PFF, Brett Coleman, I was watching his live stream. A lot of people believe that those were really good picks. So I'm pretty optimistic about the future. I don't know that, I mean, it's possible one of them starts this year, but I wouldn't, but I do have some hope that one or both of them could become starters in a couple years when Pugh's gone, and, we'll see. Right. Let's see. I just read that the team saves $5.223 million per Pro Football Talk. Okay, I'm assuming that's from the suspension. Maybe, maybe they signed someone with that, right? Maybe we signed God. We could stop Donald, right? No, that's exactly. Everyone has to scheme around Donald, right? So, 100%. I hope they really concentrate on penalties, discipline. Yeah. So, like 2 years ago, the cornerbacks, and I've talked about this a lot, the cornerbacks, like Patrick Peterson was number 1 in the league in penalties, and Drake Kirkpatrick was number 3, right? Last year, we were much better in terms of the pass interference penalty. We brought those flags down a lot, right? But the false starts and the offensive line penalties, the holdings, but it's holdings and false starts, those offensive line penalties, that really killed us. We need to clean that up for sure. Cards were top 5 in the league in 12 personnel last season, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, that's interesting. I expect to see that continue during this suspension. Okay, I could see that. So do we spend or do we say? So what Keim always likes to do is he will, and he said he's been on the record saying this. They'll sign some. They're going to sign some players in the coming days. but he always likes to keep a little bit in reserve to have some flexibility to sign players during the season or make trades, that like when they traded for Ertz or whatever. So they're going to make themselves some cap room. They're going to sign some players, and they're probably going to go into the season with 3 to 5 million in cap. They'll probably try to have that or flexibility or the ability to get that. But I think they're going to sign some people. Justin Pugh is still, yes, he is. And he's with the Cardinals and actually has played reasonably well, right? So I know people want to hate on him, but yeah. Let's see. We've got, I think James Conner also missed a few games. He was a little banged up, right? Can we count on Ertz and Hollywood staying healthy? You never know, right? Count on, I think you go in the NFL, you can never count on anyone saying, you always have to assume something could happen. Now I get that there's higher risk for Ertz being older. Hollywood, I don't think he's had a major injury problem. I think he might've missed a few games, but I think he's been relatively durable in his NFL time in the NFL. But they've got Ertz, Max Williams, and Trey McBride, the guy they drafted. So they have some nice depth at tight end. So if Ertz does go down, that's where that draft pick McBride comes into play. So, I don't know. Let's see. I have to be honest, I don't know why, but I thought when we drafted Zaven Collins, I thought we were going to turn him into I don't know why either, but hey, let's see. Have we re-signed Robert Alford? To my knowledge, unless something's happened since we went live, not yet. The only news I've heard is that a couple weeks before the draft, the Cardinals met with Robert Alford. He came in for a visit. There was no contract signed. I think I've said this before. My theory, my hypothesis is that they were going to go into the draft, see how it played out, because Keim likes doing his best player available, and if I don't doubt that if like a cornerback who they weren't expecting to be there 55 had slid and McBride wasn't there, if the best player available at pick 55 was a cornerback, I think they were going to take that player. So I think they were going into like, okay, let's see what happens with the draft. If best player available and the way things work out, we get a cornerback high, then we don't have room on the roster to bring it back Robert Alford, right? That we'll have our 4 or 5 cornerbacks. If we don't draft someone high, then let's bring Alford back. That's my theory. That's what I think they were doing. So I think if I had to predict, I would guess that they will sign him. But obviously I could be proved wrong there. But I think they'll sign him, or if not, another veteran. Watch them do none of that, right? But that's my theory. We'll see. Let's see. Injuries to key players would take any team down. Hopkins, Watt, Kyler, Hudson. If Rams, Donald Ramsey, Kupp got injured, they'd be done. Yeah, I know people say, oh, you're making excuses. Don't blame injuries. Everyone has injuries. Well, injuries matter. Every team has injuries. Some years you have more injuries. Some years you have less. Some years you have the players that get injured aren't as core and central, and some years they're your key players. And we lost, our best receiver, our best defensive lineman, our best cornerback. Our quarterback missed 3 games, and we somehow managed to win 2 of those. It was a really bad year for injuries for the Cardinals. So I know some people say you're making excuses. It's just the reality, right? And the part of the problem is they didn't have the depth to deal with that. Other teams had better depth, so that happens, right? Let's see. I need Humphreys to get it together. I feel every other flag. He had a lot of penalties last year. Absolutely. Humphreys is up and down. 2 years ago, he was like the 4th graded tackle in the NFL. And this last year, he was like ranked around 30. I still think he's good. I'm not ready to cut him loose. But it would be nice to see him have a rebound year, right? Thoughts on Lecitus? Is it Lecitus? I can't even pronounce it. Letitia Smith, Ingram, Myjai Sanders, and Cameron Thomas pickups. The burglar. I loved all those picks. I thought Smith was a steal. He's one of those guards that they took late that a lot of people thought would go early or could be a future starter. We'll see. Myjai. Love that, his potential as an edge rusher. Cameron Thomas too, both of those guys. And I'm going to be working on a Cameron Thomas video sometime in the next day or two. I thought, the running back Ingram was a great pickup. I feel like again, maybe I'm being overly optimistic. This is to me the best Cardinals draft I've seen in a while in terms of feeling really good, like top to bottom. There's like, the cornerback they took late is a head scratcher. Like I've said before, I'm not going to take them to task over a dart throw in the 7th round. I have a feeling they took him because they want him to be a special teams guy or whatever. But like overall, like aside from that cornerback, there's no one that I felt like they reached for. In fact, most of their picks, I thought they got really good value, right? Alfred's working out with Patrick Peterson. So here's hoping that doesn't, mess them up or doesn't get him to not want to come back, right? Is losing Chandler Jones as big a loss as media seems to imply? So I talked about this a good bit during a previous live stream. And so if you look at last year, Chandler Jones, had that 5-sack game against Tennessee. And then he had like 5.5 sacks the rest of the season. Now he missed a few games, right? So when you look at that, okay, 10.5 sacks, that's not nothing. But when it's all in one game, it's a little bit overload there, and we needed more from him later. Now, there's a lot of arguments made is that if he got double teamed, that allowed Marcus Golden to kind of get better looks and so on and so forth, and that's fair. But is this team better today if they have Chandler Jones than without him? Yeah, they're better with him. But the version of Chandler Jones we had last year wasn't that game changer year long, right? That one game with 5 sacks was a big deal. But after that, 5.5 sacks for the season, Marcus Golden was much better over the rest of the season. So if Chandler Jones has a much better season, then hindsight 2020, yeah, maybe it ends up being kind of a big deal that we could have had that version of him. But I don't think this team is as much worse as people think it is without him, because the version we had last year wasn't a great version of him, if that makes sense. So, Jails have kind of making that point about, a thing I'm going to miss with Chandler is his presence. When he's there, they force the other teams to double team him and focus on him. And allow our other guys to work. Aside from that, it's at this point in his career, right? So I want to say hey to my good buddy Rip and Haas. He's a really good dude, supporter of the channel. I'm late. Someone hold me. Yeah, I'm with you, man. We're all here for each other, buddy. I appreciate you, Rip, and I appreciate you, Hush. You're a really good dude. Kasi agrees. So, I think Chandler Jones is a really good player still, but I just 2 years ago he got injured. We didn't have him, and we still, Vance Joseph was able to get pass rush. Hassan Reddick, obviously a really good edge rusher, but he got 7.5 sacks out of Dennis Gardeck. Vance Joseph is good at scheming up pressure. I like those. I like the rookies we got. JJ Watt, if he's I know it's a big health, but and Marcus Golden's a beast. I think our pass rusher is going to be fine. I really do. So we'll see though, right? Let's see. Has Keim had a good pick in the first round outside of Kyler? So, okay, I would contend that Hassan Reddick was a good pick, but the team mismanaged him. I mean, the guys had double-digit sacks back-to-back years. I put that more on the coaching staff trying to turn him into an off-ball linebacker, but he was a good player. So I'd have to look back. I mean, DJ Humphries, some people might disagree. I mean, I think he's a good. He was a late first-round pick, and getting a tackle who is a starting left tackle late first round isn't bad. So I wouldn't say there are any stellar first-round picks that you could argue. Now, I still think Zayvon Collins could end up being really good, and Isaiah Simmons too. So we'll see. So I think the jury's still out on them as well. Let's see, Lance. Plus the depth in the draft for edge was good this year. I feel like we made some good picks with talent and future potential at edge. 100%. I think they're going to be fine in terms of edge rush, right? Yes, hugs for everyone. That's right, Bear. Hugs for everyone. I've seen conflicting reports. One says D-Hop's tested positive for masking agent, and others didn't mention it. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that kind of comes out. Oh, Nuke just released a statement on Twitter. So live breaking news. Let's see if we can find that. If I can find it, I'm going to bring it up. let's see. All right. Sorry. So I'm going to look and see. Let's find. It's probably on his own Twitter. DeAndre Hopkins. If I can. Okay. All right. If I can find. Oh, here we go. All right. Ready? I'm going to share the screen, and we will read this together. This is part of our group therapy. Together, we are going to read this and process. Okay. Here is Hopkins' statement. Just came up here. So good timing. Thank you for mentioning that. In fact, let me see if I can I make that bigger? Maybe. Oh, here I am. Okay. No, let me wait. Let me fix this. Get that out of the way. Okay, here we go. In my 10-year NFL career, I have never tested positive for using performance-enhancing drugs. To learn that my November test came back with trace elements of a banned substance, I was confused and shocked. I am very mindful of what I put in my body, and have always taken a holistic approach, so I'm working with my team to investigate how this could have happened. But even as careful as I have been, clearly I wasn't careful enough. For that, I apologize to Cardinals fans, my teammates, and the entire Cardinals organization. I never want to let my team down. I fully intend to get to the bottom of this. As soon as I have more information, I will share it. DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so that's his statement. So, I'm not sure, people will have different opinions about that. I mean, there's one side that says that, of course, he's going to say that. Players always say that, but it could be true. I am going to reserve judgment, right? That's kind of, that's my opinion. But I have another super chat that I want to thank. Louis Sanchez, thank you for this. This all started when MF started calling it Bird City football. I'm with you. I am so sick about the up situations, but at least we didn't lose him all year. That's fair. Yeah. Listen, I'm on team no to the Bird City football hashtag. I know some people don't really care about it, but I'm much more kind of with the old school Red Sea, rise up Red Sea. But Louis, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that sincerely. And of course, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate everyone who subscribes, who watches, the super chats, the channel members, folks who are here. I've said this before. I'm a Cardinals fan like you. I started this channel because I wanted to talk about my Cardinals and do something, creative with videos and such. And it is a joy to me to get to be here and talk about the Cardinals with a group of people that care about the Cardinals and a community. So thank you for your support. It means a lot. Love the stream. Props from UK. Hey, I love having folks here who are from all over the world. I've come to call and I live in Georgia. I don't live in Arizona. I'm from Arizona, was born there. My career brought me to Georgia. So those of us who are Cardinals fans who are in other places, I've started calling us the Cardinals diaspora, right? The fan base that's kind of spread out. So, I'm glad to have another member of the Cardinals diaspora here from the UK. Appreciate you being here. So yes, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. Maybe it's the hair, but Gardeck reminds me of Tillman. Aside from that, he just has the drive and the motor. He doesn't let his size affect his heart or effort. Listen, I think maybe the hair, but there are some comparisons, right? He's a high effort player, high motor player, a player, Tillman, I think, was a 6th or 7th round draft pick, if I'm remembering correctly, and he played linebacker at ASU, and he became a safety, and he became, he was one of those players who exceeded his draft status, and he was immensely popular with the fans, and Gardeck is popular fans. So there's some similarities, right? So for sure. Let's see. Hop saying he's confused and shocked. Him and his team are investigating into the situation. Listen, I could be cynical about that and say, of course, he's saying that they're investigating the situation, or I could take him at face value and say that, the one thing I would say is that there's a long list of things that can get you, suspended on that that list of things that are banned, and they're not like all illegal things to my knowledge. Like a lot of them are kinds of things that are in popular and commonly used supplements, but as a pro football player, you have to be vigilant, and there's not really an excuse in that matter. But I guess kind of the nuance here is, it doesn't necessarily mean the dude was juicing up on steroids, right? It could have been something that, people take all the time, but is on their list, and he, they didn't, or maybe it was something intentional. I'm going to reserve judgment because there's a million different things that could be going on here. Right. Let's see. Yeah, basically said, I didn't know, my bad, but he tried, it was a well-crafted statement because he includes some semblance of a responsibility, right? I do a lot of writing, and, I work as a professor. So like writing and language is kind of my thing. So, I see what he did there. He said, I didn't do this on purpose, but I'm still accepting responsibility that I should have been more vigilant. We're going to, and whether that's where he's being honest or not, I don't know. I'm not going to judge him, but from a PR standpoint, that was probably the smart way to approach it, is like, still apologizing for, not for missing it. Right. So, Dial, I'm inclined to believe him. This does happen, but we can never know for sure. Yeah. That's kind of my place. Right. So, I know someone asked about this a little bit earlier. How does this compare to Patrick P tested positive? Pat totally declined after he bombed hot with PDs. I think in terms of the question about, did he do it with knowledge or not? I think it's similar to Pat P in that regard, that they both say they didn't do it on purpose, that they didn't know, and we don't know whether it's true or not. In that regard, it's similar. We talked about this earlier, though. Like, I think, Patrick Peterson is kind of a speedy cornerback, plays a different kind of position. And I have to wonder if he wasn't really doing performance enhancing stuff. Whereas, Hopkins, I think more inclined, his game is more based on his catching and catch radius, and not as much on speed. So I'm more inclined to think he might have been doing things that were more oriented towards recovery based on his injury as well. But who knows, right? So yeah, let's see. Going through the comments here. Yeah, Bird City has to go. I'm not a fan of it, but he's very loyal to his team. When injured on the sideline, he said he felt helpless knowing he can't help the team. Okay. It's really, listen, a lot of people have kind of talked about this, like how, Ridley being suspended, like, making comparisons that's kind of messed up, that for betting he gets, and I think there's an argument to be had there. I think with betting, the sports are always really vigilant on betting, though, because like betting always like is connected to the question of were they throwing games, right? That's with team sports, pro sports will come down super hard on betting because of that tie to the potential, controversies that could happen if a player was betting and throwing games or inside knowledge. So I hear you. In some sense, it doesn't seem equitable, but there's a reason they come down on that, whether you agree with it or not, so let's see. I would be inclined to believe him, but he's in his 8th year in the NFL. Okay. So maybe because he's older, you wonder. I like the content, dude. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate it, Luis. Appreciate the support. I can't help but think that city walking from South Park when I heard birds. Okay. I watched some South Park, but I don't think I've seen that episode. So yeah. Let's see. Thank you, Donovan. I appreciate that. Love this podcast. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Mark Jackson, great support of the channel. Good dude, channel member, part of the Discord. Hey, Bergang just got to the hotel. He's always traveling for work and stuff. So yeah. The Banana Express, it never ends. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Alfred in Georgia, Rise Up Red Sea. Is that where you're at? I'm in Georgia. Maybe we've talked about this before. So I'm not in Alpharetta, but been through there. If they have a losing record after the first 6 games, we get mad and D-Hop comes back and they win out. if we have a winning record of first 6 games, they get pumped even more and they win out. Win-win. Here's hoping, right? I mean, it's only a win if we win, right? As much as that sounds like a truism, if so, maybe there's a win-win lose. The lose is any scenario where we don't make the playoffs, then it's a lose, right? And then it piles on, right? Let's see. Also, what takes the NFL so long to get this out if he failed in November? Well, I think I would guess it has something to do with his appeal, because I don't know, and again I don't know all the inner workings of this, but it could be that he was appealing and then they don't want to announce it until the appeal is withdrawn, or like, because what if he appealed and there was an investigation and they found, oh, you know what, he didn't, something was wrong with the test, or the chain of custody was wrong. And, it's like Pandora's box. Once you open that, you can't close it. So if they report, hey, he tests positive, and then there's an appeal and there's an investigation, and then they're like, oh, guess what? He didn't. The hit to his reputation, if he loses any sponsor, any kinds of negatives that happen in the interim, it's hard to take that back. So I get, assuming that what happened is he appealed it, and then, sounds like he withdrew the appeal, and then it came to be, public. That's my best guess. If there's something different, then let me know. If anyone knows any different details, right? Chris R., I don't mind Bird City, a little cheesy, but it's a homage to old Phoenix Cardinals and how Valley's son is Phoenix, is Bird City. I mean, I kind of, I'm not really outraged about it. I'm more half joking. I'm not going to ever use it. If you want to use it, that's cool. I think it feels like some dude in marketing just said, dude, let's do this new hashtag, and, didn't run it by didn't run it by a study to make sure people liked it, right? But who knows? Let's see. How does it work? They tested positive. Remember, comes in. Okay, so we already talked about that. I think it makes sense if, again, like I said, if the appeal was going on, right? You're always a Cardinals optimist. I try to be that way too. Some people don't like it, but it is what it is. Sacramento, California, Bird Gang, awesome. When I was a kid, I lived in Hayward, California, in the Bay Area. I went on a field trip in elementary school to Sacramento. That was a long time ago, but part of the Cardinals diaspora. Yeah, he had the typical PR answer there, and I think that's right. Whether it's true or not is a whole other question, right? I don't care. We're not calling it Bird City when they represent Arizona, not Phoenix only. They don't even play in Phoenix, So hey, it's definitely a polarizing hashtag, isn't it? We got New Mexico from the Cardinals diaspora here, right? Okay, so we've talked about that a little bit more. And okay, so Chris is kind of on the same place where I'm at on his explanation, right? Let's see. I know I'm kind of way behind on comments. Let me kind of jump ahead a little bit, get a little closer. Let's see. Who will get cut? Wesley Dortch or Isabella? Maybe when Hopkins is back. So okay, let's talk about this. So last year, the Cardinals kept 6 wide receivers. Okay, they historically have kept 5 or 6 on week 1. So right now, what you have, obviously Hopkins will be suspended, but he's one of the receivers. But let's set him aside. You have AJ Green, Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, right? That's 3. Wesley Dortch, right? Am I missing anyone? Those are the 5 receivers, right? Wesley, AJ Green, Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore, Dortch, 5. Then Isabella. Okay, Isabella, that's the 6th one, right? So if they keep Isabella, I'm not convinced Isabella makes the team. I have a feeling they might release him at some point between now and training camp, and then they might sign someone else, like a veteran or even a young or someone. But I think of those guys, Isabella's the most likely to kind of be the odd man out. I could see them putting Dortch on the practice squad. He was on the practice squad last year. But I think they like him as a slot receiver. So I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. We got Dakota in here. Thanks for being here. Sick, tired. Hopkins is suspended. Also, bring back past players long. Okay, sure. Why withdraw an appeal? That's a good question. I'm not sure. It may be one of those situations where you appeal and that it's not going to work out. Maybe and sometimes it's one of those things where like you just kind of withdraw it to move forward. I don't know. I'm not inside, so that's a good question, right? And then okay, well, an appeal can only delay when he come back, so maybe he had some time he could have still worked with, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. Let's see. We got What's Up, Soul Pancakes. Thanks for being here. Let's wait for the All Things Covered podcast to speak of this, right? Yeah. Patrick Peterson's podcast, right? Oh, here's an interesting one. Okay. Is this, I don't know the rules with all the intricacies of the rules, but if that is the case, that if you lose the appeal, you get 2 extra weeks suspended. If that's true, if that's really the rule, and he feels like there's a good chance he's not going to, he knows he's not going to win, then that's why you would withdraw the appeal. That would make sense, right? Let's see. Okay, Lance, I followed NFL for as long as I can remember. I can't think of a time when the NFL changed its ruling, just less games, or would it be wiped clean? I think there's a potential for, again, I don't know the rules, all the intricacies of the rules, but I know there's different tiers of offenses and different types of things. So I think there's a potential that suspension could be reduced or wiped clean. I mean, I think both are possible if the right evidence came out. I just think I have a feeling it wasn't going to work out that way, and he knew it. So yeah, we're going to be okay. Green, Andy, Hollywood, Isabel are going to do the thing. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit before, right? We got JP in the house. What's up, JP? This would expedite Holiday Brown, Trey McBride into the offensive flow, right? He wanted rookies to play. This is the best chance. Listen, there's something to be said, right? What camera do you stream with? Okay, it's a Canon M50 Mark II. Thank you for asking. It's actually I just got it this year. Canon M50 Mark II, just upgraded. So, yeah, I really dig it. It's better than the webcam I used to work with. Let's see. Should have did phone vote or fan vote on the new hashtag. That would have been nice, right? Do I think there's any truth to us potentially getting new uniforms anytime soon? 2, 5, 10 years, black helmets for a random uniform color rush. I mean, it seems like they're overdue. I don't have any inside information. I know fans have been talking about it for a long time. Media's been talking about it. I can't imagine it's not going to happen sometime soon. I mean, there's just too much. I mean, but I have no inside information. But if I had to bet, I'd guess within the next couple of years there'll be a new uniform, even if it's just a minor change, right? Like now, Gumbo, hello. So we just looked at. I don't know if you were here. We did look at what you call it, the Twitter statement. So we just went over that. So I'm guessing that's what you're talking about. Do you think Cardinals took a tight end in the second round because they knew about Hop being suspended? I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, they claim that he was the best player on their board. And based on player rankings, I can believe that he was the top tight end in this class by most people's, assessment. So I think it could, but I will say this, at minimum, knowing about the suspension made that move a little easier for them to feel comfortable with. In fact, I think during one of the press conferences, Steve Keim said something to the effect that he almost traded out. And when the pick happened, I like the player Trey McBride, but I wanted a different position. And kind of one of the things I said at the time was, if the best player on your board is a position that really doesn't make sense for you, trade back and get extra picks. And that way, when you do pick, you get the value lines up. And they didn't do that. But I think the fact that they knew he would be gone maybe made shifted the calculus. I don't think they would have taken a different player if he wasn't suspended at 55, but they might have been more inclined to trade out of that, if that makes sense, because of that. But this is speculation. I don't know. I think it could have had something to deal with the calculus. Mark Jackson likes the Bird Alert. Yeah, hey, I think I follow Bird Alert on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. Check them out. What's the problem with Isabella? Why has he not made a team more often? Boy, that is the 50. Wait, yeah, right. Oh, sorry. I just saw this car wakes up from a dream. Joe, you got me paused for a second there, right? Yeah, we're not trading from. What is the deal with Annie Isabel? That is a question that I'll be honest, I don't know the answer. I wrestle with that one. Some people say that, he had a hard time beating press. I think I talked about that in a video and someone wrote about that and said, well, you can move, there's things you can do to move him around. He's had some big plays. There were a couple games where he had big plays, long touchdowns. I think he's fast. I think he's talented. My best theory, and I don't know that whether I'm right about this. This is my best theory, and this is no insider information, but my best theory is this. I think they like the bigger receivers outside. I think when they drafted him, they wanted him to be more of a slot receiver. They thought they could get him to play in the slot, and for some reason, he wasn't a great fit there, and so he just had a hard time seeing the field. I don't know that I'm right on that. It's speculation. There's something going on. I don't know what it is because dude's fast, so I don't know. Yeah. We signed LSU receiver Kirkland. I hope he takes Brazil's place. We signed a couple undrafted free agents, so who knows, right? Teddy's talking about Kikalo Canijo. I know I butchered that, and I apologize to the player. So I think he's probably from Boise State, if I'm not mistaken. I think Teddy really likes those Boise State players, so he thinks he's a player to watch, right? Yeah, he reached a statement. Is it Daryl? Is the state? We looked at the one on Twitter. I'm going to guess it's the same statement. So we had it up on the screen a few minutes ago. So yeah. Then okay, yeah. P2 got a 8 game because of the masking agent. Yep. That was kind of part of it. Let's see. Would you trade D-Hop straight up for CD now? Yeah, I would. The Cowboys wouldn't. I don't think. You've got a young receiver ascending. Kyler's got a rapport with him. He's much younger. Yeah, I think I would. It's not going to happen, but would I? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's in this moment, I think so. But Pedro wouldn't. Okay. Listen, Hopkins is a better receiver right now, no doubt. But the age comes into play here in how long you're going to have the player, right? We are 2 minutes to 8 o'clock, and I'm sorry, no, not 10 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock your time, and I believe the Suns game is coming on soon. So we'll probably try to wrap this up because I don't know about you, but I want to watch the Suns hopefully go up 1-0. So why don't we got maybe just a couple minutes to get last few comments and such. Let's see. Big plays into Kyler threw him multiple times in those games. Okay. Let's see. Yep, Suns game coming on. So yeah, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Okay, this is a good question. Trade guide over under 450 yards. I am gonna say under because he's a rookie, not much under, but it could be. I mean, I don't know. I think 300 to 400 yards seems like I think he'll get some run, but they're going to spread around. That might be I think I would say that's a really good number for the over under. It makes it tough, right? So 100%. Yep, folks are going. So listen, thank you all for jumping on here. And up, you think over? I appreciate everyone jumping on here, hanging out. I think we got through this together, at least today. We all gave each other hugs. We comforted each other. We'll get through this. Thank you for being here, everyone. Go Suns. And we will. I'm going to end it on my shout out to my channel members. Appreciate everyone who supports the channel. So thank you, everyone. Channel members. Peace.